Hi, you're listening to Boggy Talk, Faith Conversations in the Mud, a resource of Church on Bayshore.
Hey, and welcome to Noggy Talk. We are in the thick of December. It is thicker than a peppermint milkshake from Chick-fil-A right now.
That's
I tell you what.
That was good, man.
Thanks.
I tell you added that. I tell you what.
I
too.
tell you what.
I tell you what.
I tell you what. How you doing, buddy?
You know something I've realized that Southerners say when you ask them a question? They say, yeah, no. Like,
yeah, no.
like,
I do that for sure.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Like what?
Or, no, yeah.
Right. What is that? What is that?
You like this? Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, I'm going to.
Yeah, no.
I think it's just it's like, yeah.
Now everyone's like, do I do that? Yeah, you do. Nah.
Yeah, nah. Anyway.
Yeah,
Man.
you doing okay this December?
I'm good this December. Hey, so since we pre-record, last week we didn't get to talk about something big. And so I know we have questions, but we should, because everyone is dying to hear our opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Address the college football playoffs.
Oh, and ESPN actually called me. Actually, no, they called my children because they're way more experts than I am.
Oh, I know. Hey, so I actually called it. Somebody asked me that Sunday.
I knew
like, who's
those.
who's it gonna be? And I said it's gonna be Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama. They're
Absolutely.
like, really? No Florida State? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. So I have mixed feelings about it. It brings up strong. I'm a Georgia fan, so I mean, yeah, they played a terrible game against Alabama. They're still better, I think, on paper, but you lost the game, so that's what it is. I think it just, next year with the expanded playoff, that's a good thing. I think Florida State. I do think I'm one of the rare few people who does think, hey, they won. They overcame adversity and they deserve the shot, regardless if on paper they're the better team or excuse me, the worser team, whatever, than the four. They deserve I think they deserve the shot. That was what I would do. I would say
you're that guy, though.
I am. They deserve the shot.
They deserve the fighting chance.
I will say I will agree with you all day long. The ACC's not as strong as the others. Blah blah blah. But they won out. They lost their quarterback. They lost their backup. They won with defense. They deserve the shot. But the whole reason they're not in there is because of the SEC. That they were going to put Alabama in. They couldn't put Alabama in without putting Texas in. So that's why Florida State.
You're probably right. Yeah, the system is flawed. I think the committee did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah,
they picked. Who they
followed the money trail.
But then, well, that too. Yeah, but then also it's like, are the four best teams? The four best teams are probably Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. So they didn't do that. Like, it's just a flawed system. The new system, like you'll next year, like Liberty would have been like, hey, we really should be in. So say Liberty got left out because we're undefeated conference champ this year.
They could be number 12. They weren't going to win. 13.
But that's a lot different than a team that could have a shot at actually winning the title.
Absolutely.
Liberty doesn't have a shot.
Yeah.
You know what hurt FSU too was TCU getting their butts kicked by Georgia.
They were like, we're not going to have that again. Absolutely. So Florida State really does have TCU and the SEC.
You were like, you felt bad.
I did. I was like, a Georgia fan. I'm like, can we just call it at halftime? Anyway. But ultimately, I was like, after the SEC championship game and Georgia lost, and we'll move on because this is way too much time on this. I was literally just like, all right, well, moving on because, again, it's a bunch of like 19, 20-year-old. Well, now college football is like all messed up. 25-year-olds and 26-year-olds, playing a game. And at the end of the day, it just does not affect.
Football is life. Anyway.
It is so much fun. But anyway.
We got to remember that. Well, speaking of calling it quits at halftime.
There you go.
We're talking about being present.
Being present.
During Christmas, right? Because the best gift you can give someone is
You are the present. You're present.
Thank you.
You're sorry.
You were trying to do two things at one time. You did ruin my
I was listening, though.
But, it's like the middle of the holiday season. There's all these things that people are supposed to do. And so, what we've observed and other people have shared before and people have written about this is some people kind of escape during the holidays and aren't present, whether it's in their home or with their family or things in the church, or whatever it might be. And so we want to kind of speak to how you can be present during the Christmas season and also kind of talk about that as more than just 1 month out of the year. So we're going to speak to it. And since we're going to speak to it, Justin's going to start.
So really, as we talk about presence, really the opposite of that is absence.
Oh, good job.
And so let's just start there, because I think what happens a lot of times is maybe we're physically present, but we're not like attuned to what's actually going on around us, whether we're paying attention or listening or just being absent, And I think this season maybe highlights some of that a little bit more, though the problem persists year round, and that's for a number of reasons. You know, we want to escape, we want to we want to avoid hard things, we want to procrastinate to avoid hard things.
And it's so much easier now, because of
because you just get on your phone and just start scrolling, and it is really, I think. I mean, I've noticed this in my own self, you know,
Catch me scrolling.
Yeah, that's right. But it's like, it makes I think our minds, because of our phones and technology, our minds have become more and more programmed to be absent, because it really is absent-minded, and we're constantly consuming, and our brains just aren't designed to handle the amounts of information that we're consuming. So we're constantly brain dumping things.
Speak for your own mind. My mental capacity.
And I think what's happening is that we're starting to do that with like things that actually matter, because we can't pay attention long enough to actually like have a coherent train of thought.
What?
Exactly. What did you say? I'm like, as I'm saying this, I'm like kidding. Distracted by 5 things in this room.
But
I'm
not, because the lights are so bright.
They are so bright. But I think that's what we've got to recognize is part of what, you know, we typically talk about slowing down to enjoy the season, or things that we really should be doing year round.
Right.
We really need to, it really is highlighted right now.
Yeah. I think so. There's like, let's talk about like the philosophical aspect of this, which is like this is why, which I think most people are like, yeah, duh. They're not like, yeah, nah. And so they're like, yeah, duh. And then we'll talk about like what to do about that. So like from a heart standpoint, like we should want to be present, right?
Yeah.
Like God, if we're Christian, of course, like God, if God's desire was for us to just like feel the fullness of his joy, like unhindered, unfiltered, he would take us to heaven right that second, right? Like that's the promise.
Right.
So what he's doing, he is beginning that work in us on earth, but he leaves us on earth where there is hardships, where there is things we want to escape from, because he wants us to be used for others' sake, right? Like for the advancement of eternity. That's 100% the reality.
Right.
So we should then, as Christians, want to bring that joy. Like we should increasingly want to bring that joy of heaven into the lives of others by meeting their needs, by being there for them, by caring for them, experiencing the joy that comes from relationships. So like Christmas, like in our home, like we want to celebrate Jesus together. We want to constantly be investing in people. We want to serve together. We want to all those things, right? So like I think we all get that probably.
Yeah, hopefully.
But then we don't do that.
Yeah.
So
well, it sounds like what you're saying is like what Jesus said. Teach us to pray, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is.
And that
in
isn't
heaven.
always just like, what is the pastor going to say we're going to do as a church at Vision Night to do that? It's like, how can I do that?
Yeah.
Right? How can I do that with my in-laws? How can I do that, wherever it might be? And so I think like, why don't we do that? And, I think, or why don't we stay focused on that? I think part of it is we're not disciplining ourselves for the purpose of godliness. We talk about those kind of things all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're constantly focused on what's next, or we're so busy that we have to think about what's next. And so we're not really putting into practice some of the things. I mean, God has wired us in a way that we need rest. A good book that I have recently read for class is called Zeal.
Genesis?
Genesis. I just read the Bible. But seminary, you read lots of books besides the Bible, right?
I know.
It's a book called Zeal Without Burnout. He's talking about how not everything you do as a the Christian life is full of sacrifice, and not every sacrifice is burnout, but our misplaced zeal can lead to burnout.
I feel like that should be your biography title.
It really
Zeal
could
without
be.
Burnout. I'm complimenting
All right,
you.
well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. But one of the things he talks about is being created for these rhythms of rest. And this profound sentence right here: I need sleep, God doesn't.
Ooh, boy.
And
nah.
As I was like, man, I could have written that, but also because it's simple, but that simple truth. And he goes on to say, I need Sabbath.
God
doesn't.
But he took it.
Yeah. And because to show us, and I think this rhythm that we're in, and I think we as leaders have to, I have to say I'm not very good at this, is like the rhythm of true rest and Sabbath is practicing presence. It's practicing being in the shalom, the peace of God, that he's sufficient, that he's enough. And what, one of the things I've been reading too was talking about how our secular society is work, vacation.
You must be talking about another nation because this is a Christian nation.
That's right.
Just kidding.
Is work, vacation, work, vacation.
Tell people I'm busy.
That's right. That's right. But the Christian perspective is work, Sabbath, work, Sabbath. So it's
you mean like every other day?
Every other no, 6 and 6,
Yeah,
but you know what I mean? Like if we have
I see what you're trying to do here on our
that's right.
staff,
If we have repeated rhythms of rest, then we avoid burnout. And I think so much of our escapism and lack of presence, and I speak from my own perspective, is because we're so busy and so full that when we actually do have a time to sit down and be present with someone, we almost don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, when's the last time you just sat in a conversation, no technology around, and just focused on the people around you and their needs and their conversations? And that's hard, you know. That's it shouldn't be hard, but we've made it hard.
No, I mean, yeah, I say that sleep is a reminder that we're not God, you know, and we need sleep. So I think that the Sabbath principle is super important to this. And people just aren't doing it. They're just flippantly considering what God would have to say. And I really do try to have a day where I'm like off, you know, from my regular work. And I've heard Sabbath defined as that, like a day where you don't have to work for your regular responsibilities. And I think, you know, I mean, and you know what Sabbath is. I mean, some people would take it doing any work around the house is not Sabbath. I think, you know, I'm intentional. I don't enjoy mowing the yard, but going out and mowing the yard and listen to a podcast, listen to a sermon, like that's rest for me. So, you know, and we could debate all that on another Boggy Talk, but I think that's a big part of it. And being in the Word, like, I think if we want to focus every day, you know, lived for God, then we need to take the morning, in my opinion, and spend time hearing from God and praying and listening, and if we can, journal and just really commit that day to the Lord. I think that's beneficial. I think we need accountability too, and when I say accountability, I don't mean just people who are like, you screwed up, you know, like, I don't know what voice it is.
That
but
voice,
like,
that's usually the voice.
You are a terrible person. You are not. I don't know what voice it is. You are not doing good. I'm sure that's some offensive accent, and I don't mean it to be. It doesn't, but it doesn't sound like any ethnicity to me, so I think it's safe. But anyway.
Kind of sounded like a little bit like Cookie Monster-ish. Like Muppet. Instead of Muppet.
So if anybody should be offended, it's a Muppet right now. But like, hey, pray for me. How can I pray for you this week? Hey, I'm going to this gathering, you know, and I just want to pour into people that, you know, just, and how did it go? You know, that kind of stuff. So, and then, I mean, worshiping with a church, hopefully you have a church you really enjoy worshiping, having a good marriage, you know, that you encourage, that helps to have the person as your partner.
Absolutely.
I mean, being healthy. I mean,
right, and I think just ultimately prioritizing being present. You know, have some unstructured time. Just, I would say, have time where you know, even if you're a parent and you've got teenagers and they have electronics, where we just say, hey, everybody's putting their phones up right now.
That's right,
and you'll get pushback. That's okay. Phones. Like, that's part of being a parent is dealing with the pushback. It's part of being a leader is dealing with the like, you know, it's just what happens. But, you know, ultimately it's cultivating the space for these things.
It's good.
We don't have to constantly have something in front of us or in our minds. Like, we can just be.
And you know, with that too, like, so you said this, like, if we're filling if there's no margin in our life financially, emotionally, time wise, like if there's no margin, it's hard to be present.
Right. Absolutely.
And so I think like learning to have more margin in your life, and you got to figure that out, you know, and you got to make wise choices. And I think you just have to say, hey, getting to a point where there is margin in my life, is that important, you know, and not being a people pleaser too. I think that's been a part of my life is like, you know,
just want everybody to be happy, want everybody to get along, all what's best for everyone.
I can't make people be different.
Yeah.
I can't.
That's true.
I'm good at it comparatively, but I can't make anybody.
You can't make anybody.
I'm good at being persuasive.
Yeah, but you can't make anybody do it. You can't make anybody do it. So, well, there you go. Hey, there you go. Anything else we need to escape from, or just besides this conversation?
Yeah, let's escape from this
All
conversation.
right. Cool.
Connected question.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me, and this was actually, remember when I preached on, you better say yes. Remember when I preached on children and parents a couple weeks ago?
It was the Sunday after Thanksgiving.
So I said you should always, I said you should always honor your parents.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, okay, so what about like my parents? They want us to go on vacation with them every year. I have a limited amount of vacation time. We'd rather do something with our kids on our own. And then kind of like connected that, like holidays, like there's certain parents, they want you to come there Christmas. You want to do Christmas morning with your parents, but they want to come over Christmas morning. Like, how do you honor your parents, but also like do your thing that you feel like you should do?
That's a great question. And when I figure it out, I will let you know. I think so.
So why don't you tell us how David and Ann make you mad?
That's right. No, so I think my parents are pretty I'm thankful, like they're pretty realistic with expectations. Of course, they want to be together, but they're like low pressure.
The more kids you have, the less likely your parents are to say, hey, we want to see you early in the morning too.
And I think, I would say
the more kids you have or less kids you have?
You said the more.
Yeah.
So I would say first, let me address, like, if you're older and your parents and your children are grown, remember what it was like to have expectations and try to free your kids from those expectations. Granted, like the reality, there's what's ideal and there's what's real. Ideal is that everyone is just so selfless and no one gets their feelings hurt, and that's not real. So, if you're in a position where you're trying to honor your mother and father who are older and that you've got kids, I
hope your mother and father are older than you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Who are,
do you mean like way old?
Way older, and you're grown, your parents are older, you're raising your own kids.
Okay.
Like there is a point when we're not necessarily under their authority, but we're not free from the command to honor them. So we do have to walk with a lot of discernment about what is honoring, because I have seen older parents with grown children place burdensome expectations that are not biblical. And then I've even seen where it gets twisted to, you should honor your father and mother, and the scriptures get twisted. So that's wrong.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Back to marriage real quick. It never says husbands ensure your wives submit.
Yeah.
Right. And it never says wives ensure your husbands do this. So like it never says parents ensure your children honor you. Right. Like obeying, it's our responsibility to try and teach them to obey. But like at honor point, like we're not like, you're not honoring me,
Yeah.
Like that shouldn't be something we're saying.
Right.
So anyway,
you just gotta, so you do have to have, I would say, principles to help in this: clear communication. Be okay with not being be okay with being misunderstood, because let's just say your parents do have unrealistic expectations and they're like, no, you really should. You may have to just say, no, what's best for my family is this.
Yeah.
I would, and then be okay with them not understanding and saying, we still love you and here's what we can do or willing to do. Now, I would say between the husband and wife, if, it gets complicated when you're dealing with multiple sets of parents, and recognize that. And you guys have to be unified in this. You have to have clear communication and, just be open, honest in the communication. And ultimately what you have to do is like, this is what's best for our family. And I would say, be clear with honoring your mom. One way to honor them is to be clear, invite them into your traditions. I think I do empathize. I'm not there yet, but my kids are getting older, and I am very aware that one day they're going to have their own traditions, and it's okay. Like if they may take some of the traditions we have as a family and incorporate them into their holiday celebration or rhythms and vacations and all those things, and they may not. And I just want to be so supportive of them, and also just want to be. I feel like I can empathize. I would just say, just be as supportive as you possibly can to your children. Yeah. Because
I think we talked about this before. Like, it's easy for me to speculate what I'm going to be like, right? But like,
I'm going to get my feelings hurt.
I think for us, like in our situation, like we both have 6 children. So we have this realization that getting us all together for a holiday at one time is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that so that might be like something that's prompted by us having so many. But I think that even if you only have one or two, or three, like you should have the same expectation. Like they don't have to do that. Like if you have family, like for us, we have to be here on Christmas Eve. You have to be here on Christmas Eve.
I
Justin. We do, and so like there's no flexibility like to go to Christmas at grandma's, and like we're just not gonna pack our kids up at 7:00 at night and drive 6 hours, So like, cause we just don't feel like that's right for them for Christmas, and some do. And I'm not saying that they're wrong for that, but, so like if my parents had that expectation, like we just wouldn't be able to meet it. And so I think, you want to create as the parents, the grandparents, like a welcoming, but not demanding environment.
Right.
And, and if you be the servant, I feel like whoever has more authority or power should always try to be the servant, in my opinion, and so, we're always trying to deny ourselves. And then I just try to, like you said, I try to communicate with my parents and in-laws. And it took a few years for us to figure out Christmas. We've worked something out now where, my parents come over a day or two before Christmas Eve. And then they leave, the day after Christmas, even though they'd probably like to stay longer so that my in-laws can come. So they drive over, on Christmas Day, see my some other family, and then they come to our house the day after Christmas. So it's like a handoff. And it took a few years to figure that out. Maybe it was awkward. I don't know. But now nobody, it is what it is.
But you adapt. And I think that's the key to this is you have to adapt over time. And as your kids get older, the needs change, you just have to change. And we've done that in the recent years, just said, hey, for a long time, we have all of our families in Atlanta, and Thanksgiving and Christmas, we traveled both holidays. And it really got to the point where we just could not do it anymore. And, like we had to adjust. And
we have some friends who are older, and what they do is they take 2 weeks out of the year. And basically, they can pay for all their kids and grandkids to come, and like it's 1 week they keep all the grandkids, and then like, hey, you go and do whatever you want to their kids, and then the next week they're all together. Yeah, it's like 2 weeks every year, and I if you have the means to do something like that, I think that's great because then that takes that pressure off of the other holidays,
right? Yeah,
because you are able to be there together, and usually, you could probably make something like that work once a year, especially if you're paying for it.
Yeah,
because if you're empty nesters, you got more disposable income.
Yeah, and if you can't, you figure out what you can do.
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
can you do in those situations? All right. Well, of course, there's 1,000 nuances to those and dynamics in relationships, but hopefully those are helpful principles.
And if you have difficult, people, it is what it is. Just smile. Be as selfless as you can.
Absolutely.
So, I think we have one more question, right?
One more question. Yes, this came as a comment, and this was a few weeks ago. We talked about in response to the sermon about standing up for injustices, and the question was: should Christians stand up for antisemitism? As injustice? That's the question. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, especially given what's going on, that this isn't new with what's been going on in the past few months. But it is definitely heightened given what's been going on in Israel, Palestine, and Hamas. Absolutely. And, there was, in this past week, there's been a clip circulating of in Congress, and it was like the president, I think it was MIT and Harvard and another school that I can't think of right now, but Penn. And they were basically being questioned about whether or not speaking out in favor of genocide constituted of hate speech, and they were asked pretty much, and they were giving very I'm
just glad you also saw that because it's rare that we both actually saw a viral clip.
And you can find this clip, and it's actually incredibly. It's not just disheartening; it's actually maddening to see it because they kind of really sidestep the question and try to say, well, it's actually nuanced and that it depends on the context. And basically, what they're saying is it could be only if there's actions towards genocide. What they said is that only if there's actions towards genocide would it actually be something they would discipline, which really contradicts their actions about a lot of other speeches in the past, which is, so it's actually a little bit infuriating in that situation. And that does need to be called out. It does need to be raised.
Yeah, for clarity, like the problem with those presidents who are speaking, I don't think they're, hate Jewish people, those presidents, but they're just like so sympathetic isn't the right word. We're just so slow to act on things that are clearly wrong, right? And so like, and you could replace that with like Christians, and I think it would have been the same thing. But then if it were homosexuality, and so there's just clear that there's this group, but I'm not, woe is me. I mean, I'm a white male, living in a conservative town. So I'm not like, woe is me by any means here. But like, it's just very clear that in certain circles, there are groups that are protected and groups that are not,
Right.
And so like the fact that they wouldn't say like, this is wrong.
Right.
Like,
I mean, it just clearly is a no-brainer.
right.
And they're trying to, just sidestep
They're
it really.
trying to cover their,
by saying,
whatever body part
in the
you wanna
name
say.
of academic freedom. And it's just wrong.
Yeah.
Absolutely wrong.
So I do find it, so the thing I would say is ultimately I don't know what you do. There's not a lot of in our context. There's not a lot of that exists. Anti-Semitism, that is not around here too much. I do have a person or two that email me regularly that I think like they are pretty against the Jews. So they are there. They are out there. And believe in a lot of conspiracy theories and all that. And so I don't respond to those. I've responded once and said, stop emailing me. And they keep emailing me, but they don't listen to Boggy Talk. But, if they did, stop emailing me. But so it's out there. And I just think anytime we hear about those things, we engage. I will say, like, I think that sometimes like we get so caught up in the internet stuff instead of like actually like dealing with the issues that are around us. Like, what are we doing about the problems of injustice and that are around us, right? Instead of engaging with people around us. But yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
Back to the yes, we stand up against that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to wrap today up with a little game, and since it's Noggy Talk and since it's Christmas, this game is going to test Senor James, your ability to identify a Christmas movie based off of a quote.
Okay,
and,
I'm good with quotes.
No, you are good with
I don't know if
quotes.
I'm good with Christmas movie
All right,
quotes.
well, and I've skipped over some of the obvious ones, like you sit on a throne of lies,
Elf.
or you'll shoot your eye out.
Not Toy Story. Christmas Story about a toy.
Yeah. All right. So I would probably get
2 for 2.
very few of these. All right. So here we go. Number 1. All right. I believe. It's silly, but I believe.
Oh man. Polar Express?
Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen it, and Christy's can't believe it, and she's vowed we're going to watch it this Christmas. Have you
I've never seen Miracle.
Really? Oh man,
it's been playing in the background. I've never actually seen all of A Christmas Story. It's been playing on the background many times. But
yeah. Oh, funny, man. The first church I worked at, the pastor wanted to do a whole thing themed around the Christmas Story. He wanted to show a clip in service.
That was an original idea.
Yeah, and he wanted to like show a clip, and it was back when you like had to show it. There was no digital. It was like a DVD player we had to project, and he was man. But you have to hit pause at this point because it has a cuss word.
That's so funny.
I was like, in my mind, I was like, then should we be doing this? But anyway, we did.
So can I tell a story here?
Story time.
So we did a clip. It wasn't using DVD, so this was like in 2010 or something.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was of Talladega Nights when they're praying,
just little baby Jesus,
around, And I was using that to explain, that's whatever. And then she says, "Say the bleep grace," and our person didn't stop it from saying that. So like I'm already at this kind of like newer church, and people are like, "What do I think about this?" And then that happened on Christmas Eve.
Oh wow, that's crazy. You
Say
became
the bleep
pastor.
grace. My God.
Oh man.
And we just lost 20 people.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so next is
she didn't say bleep. Just for clarity.
She didn't say bleep. All right, next quote. No one should be alone on Christmas.
No one should be alone on Christmas. Home Alone.
Nope.
2. Lost in New York.
No.
Okay.
It's animated and live action. Do 2 versions.
Animated and live action?
There's 2 versions of this movie.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I don't know.
Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he says that to the girl on Home Alone 2 Lost in New York.
Probably
too.
so.
To the
Probably
lady,
so.
the bird lady?
Yeah, he does. Actually, we just watched that recently. He does.
Okay, so
all right. So you get partial credit. There you go. All right. You can mess with a lot of things, but you can't mess with kids on Christmas.
Oh man. Home Alone? I don't know.
You're close.
Home Alone 2.
Yeah, that's right. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Okay.
Hey, that was funny. You said that about the other one. I was like, oh, don't give it away, face.
Home Alone is my favorite Christmas
It's
movie.
such a good movie. It's hilarious. All right, next. This one is kind of obscure. Just because I cannot see it doesn't mean I can't believe it. Book of Hebrews. I'm just kidding. It sounds like Hebrews.
If I can see R. Kelly. Oh, wait.
That's right.
We should have mentioned R. Kelly. Just because I can't see it doesn't mean I can't believe it. Santa Claus.
The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, okay. Man, you're really...
These are... I had to skim past the... All right, so here we go. All right, now you got this one. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?
Yeah, that's the Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yeah, that's good. Linus.
And then
Linus
he bust out
that.
with Luke chapter 2, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one, too. All right.
It is a good one as well.
This one should be a giveaway. The thing about trains, it doesn't matter where they're going.
Polar Express.
What matters is deciding to get on.
Polar Express.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Nobody's walking out on this fun, old-fashioned family Christmas.
And that's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Good job. All right, you're on a roll. All right. A toy is never truly happy until it is loved by a child.
I'm guessing that's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Good job.
Yeah.
I would have not gotten that.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay. This is similar to one before, but a little different.
Okay.
Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Billy Graham, sermon, 1972. I can't feel the effects of the wind, but I can. He didn't talk like that either. I'm just going to make Santa Claus.
Yeah, good job. That's a safe guess.
Yeah, it was.
Any of these. All right, we got a couple more.
Okay.
All right. There's a certain magic that comes with the very first snow. For when the first snow is also a Christmas snow, well, something wonderful is bound to happen.
Is that Christmas Story? Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah,
Okay,
Frosty the Snowman. All right, we've got just a couple more. All right. You have such a pretty face. You should be on a Christmas card.
Is that from the Elf?
That's Elf.
Okay. Yeah.
Good job. Yeah. All right. Christmas was on its way. Lovely, glorious, beautiful Christmas, upon which the entire kid year revolved.
That's A Christmas Story?
That is.
Okay.
Oh, good job for never seeing it.
It sounded like that.
Yeah, it does. All right. And we're going to have the happiest. Oh, excuse me. I got to start over. And we're going to have the happiest Christmas.
I mean, that sounds like Christmas Vacation again.
It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right,
I'll stop you before you say it's not. All right.
Yeah.
And then last, here we go. This one's kind of obscure.
Okay.
I want my house to be seen from space.
That is Christmas with the Cranks? Oh, no. No, that's not what. Sorry. It's got Danny DeVito and the dude that Ferris Bueller. And I don't know the name of the movie.
Deck the Halls.
Yes.
There you go.
When I said Christmas with the Cranks, that's what the movie I was thinking of, because I've actually never seen all those movies either.
Yeah, Christmas with the Cranks, we watched that one I think every year because
really?
it just kind of it's
What's
not
it
my
about?
favorite. It's basically a couple whose daughter is not going to be home for Christmas, and they have all these Christmas traditions, and then they decide to cancel Christmas and go on a cruise, and everyone in their community is like, but you're the one who hosts the Christmas party and you do all the things. And so it's like them avoiding their neighbors because they're going on a cruise, and then the last minute their daughter decides she's coming back, and they have to put together Christmas. And
they don't go on the cruise?
They don't.
My daughter would be by herself.
But it's redeeming because they go across the street.
Was the cruise refundable?
No, so here's what happens. I mean, you're not going to watch this, but they go across the street to the crotchety old neighbor who has just found out that he has cancer.
And they share the gospel.
And no, they give him the cruise and they send them on the cruise. So, there's redemption.
But does it work like that? Because I think
they're not transferable now, but in anything's possible in Hollywood.
Is this pre-COVID or after COVID?
Definitely probably pre-9/11.
Is this Carnival or is this Royal Caribbean?
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, hopefully that puts you in the mood to watch some
Somebody
Christmas movies.
Somebody wants to send us on cruises. I mean, we prefer not to go just the two of us. But,
That's right. Please. That may be fun, but
maybe we can get a sponsorship.
That's right. Can we get sponsored by Carnival? That'd be awesome. Well, hey.
I prefer Royal Caribbean.
That's right. I wouldn't know. The only time I've been
Me either. I haven't been on one. I've only been on Carnival.
We went in high school. Our marching band went on a cruise, and it was a terrible cruise ship. And we found out a few years later they actually ported it and were using it in I think Haiti. as a jail. Like, that's how awesome that boat was. They were using it for prison. So anyway, on that note, hey, watch some Christmas movies and we'll see you next time.
That's right.
Thanks for listening to Boggy Talk. We are so glad you joined in the conversation. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss a beat.